I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and these are games leaving the collection for the month of April. We have 13 games leaving the collection this particular month, 8 of them in the games passing through, more so than anything else, 4 of them actually leaving the collection, and then 1 that kind of toes the line between the 2 of them. We'll get into all of that soon enough. As usual disclaimers apply over here. I play a lot of games every single year. I can only keep so many games while also trying to hold on to the games that I love and have, while also trying to play them all. So regular reminder that many great games will leave, both great games that are passing through, as well as great games that I've had and am choosing to move on from. It does not mean the games aren't good, it just means that there's only so many games one human being can play, and I try to hold on to what I personally consider the best of the best. For that, make sure to go ahead and check out my top 100 games of all time series that I run at the beginning or the end of every single year, because that kind of gives you a glimpse of what's sticking around, what's got staying power, and what my personal very best games are. Secondly, from that, if you are a member of the channel over on Ko-Fi or over on Patreon, first of all, thank you so much. I love you're awesome. You're awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But also, I do give away some games every single month from this video series. So if you are a member over there, especially the higher tiers, they're almost guaranteed, not actually guaranteed. Lower tiers just as more of a raffle to anyone, but I do give away games every single month. It's easier than selling them, and this way I can reward the people who are choosing to support the channel. So thank you for all of that. And with that, let's go ahead and start off. As usual, we'll start with the games passing through. Passing through means just that. I played them, trying to see where they would be for me, and then I chose not to keep them based on the experience I've had. Many of these have already had or will have reviews on the channel, so check those out. But we're going to start off with a small box one, Pina Coladice, a charming Yahtzee-style dice rolling game in which you're going to roll dice and then assign them to these little kind of poker, not really poker, these coaster-type cards over here that want patterns. A full house, a pair, a triple, an ascending, a straight, all kinds of different orders of dice that you're trying to assign. And you're trying to do that in order to basically get the points on the cards, but also points for how you've placed adjacently, and hopefully even getting 4 in a row, straight or column diagonal, because if you do get 4 in a row, then you will actually immediately win the game. Forget the scoring to 20 points. It's fun. I like it. It's a good, jolly time. Jolly is not a word I use. It's a good, fun time. And it just is, that's kind of where it caps out. There's nothing amazing going on here. If I want more of a bar game experience, I'll play something like Skull or, Cockroach Poker. This is fun. I've had fun with it, but ready to move on from it. Then we have Love Letter. Now, there's a chance this doesn't actually leave. We'll see what happens with this. This is a weird one because I've played Love Letter in many iterations. I've enjoyed Love Letter. I think this particular production with the Andrew Bosley artwork, the nice box, this is great as far as general production of Love Letter goes. And it's a fun game. I always enjoy playing it, but I never ask to play it. The asterisk as far as whether this leaves or not is purely around the fact that I got my kids to play it for the first time, and they kind of liked it enough that there's a chance that they sit there and say that they want it, at which point it'll be relegated to their collection. Nonetheless, for right now, it's kind of going in my trying to see if I can get it to leave pile, because my kids have so many games that we already love and play, and I think this one overstays its welcome a little bit. It's a good game. I enjoy it, but it overstays its welcome relative to other small box games. It's great. It's a game that defines the micro game genre and change the landscape of the tabletop space in terms of the space that micro games have, the large space that's kind of oxymoron, I guess. The large space that micro games have in the tabletop hobby. From there, we have scorecards. Another newer one over here. Scorecards is basically player cards, score the card. That's the entire thing. You have a hand of cards. Each card gives some kind of attributes to the table. You have suits, you have numbers, and you're playing a card down. The card will say something like, score 3 points for every 3 on the table, or stuff like that. But then, you just try to do that again and again, 5 times, see who got the best score that round, rinse and repeat for 4 rounds, and that's basically the game. Draw a card, play a card, score a card, or play a card, score a card, draw a card is the technical order of the game. It's fun, it's simple, it does the job, but it does not wow me in any way. It's just a good experience. We have Thrones of Valeria. This one was a little harder for me. I really like Thrones of Valeria, but I also really like a lot of trick-taking games. This is a trick-taking game. It's a trick-taking game with 5 suits, and then each card, each number I should say, has an ability. So the 1s have an ability, the 2s have an ability, onwards and so forth within each suit. And so knowing that the abilities are in play and the way that they'll impact the game state totally changes everything you're doing, because you can completely topsy-turvy the entire game state as far as which suits are in demand, as far as what wins that particular suit. There's so much going on as far as the abilities. I enjoy playing Thrones of Valeria, but I do feel it leans a little bit more to the chaos and a little bit less so to the level of control I want in my trick-taking games, and so it falls into a category of I've enjoyed it, I've had fun with it, and I will almost always choose a trick-taking game that I feel there is a bit more control to my personal experience. There's Ovation. Ovation was one that I was very excited for. I remember seeing this on crowdfunding, and it's something about the tableau building of it just looked fun, simple, accessible, engaging. I like tableau building. I like simple, straightforward tableau building. The idea of just getting stuff, like I mentioned Thrones of Valeria. Valeria Card Kingdom is one of my favorite experiences. It's just a fun dice rolling experience. You have so much fun just building up all your stuff, gathering resources. And so whenever I see games like that, I kind of want to try them out. And Ovation has that appeal, that premise that you're going to be gathering cards, tucking them into your board, powering up your actions, and getting more and more done each round. And it does have that, but I do find that the early game is a little too slow for my personal desired pacing of the game, and the late game almost is the other problem. It's a little bit too complicated. It's not like you simply do more stuff later game. No, your actions are longer, more complicated, and they slow down the game. So by the time it gets to the part of the game where I'm having fun with the tableau that I've built out, it also means that I'm kind of waiting for you on your turn to do the things that you want. And the end experience was one that I enjoyed parts of Ovation, but I felt that for me personally, that balance was a bit off as far as the experience goes. From there we have Vadis. Vadis from Bitewing Games. This is a pure negotiation game. If you played games like Chinatown, this is what that is. It's all about talking to the players and trying to get their votes to allow you to move forward up the track, which is everything, because trying to get up the track is first going to score you points for every time you move up a track, getting specific point tokens, but also getting at least one person into the final enclosure ensures that you won't be left not scoring at all. The problem is you always need the majority of the votes available in order to move up the track, which means you're constantly playing a game of trying to ensure that you actually have favor with everyone at the table. And that favor is usually going to be gained by making promises now or future promises, or possibly engaging with the kind of AI players, simply bribing the little AI players in the game in order to allow you to go through. Overall, it's an enjoyable game, but it does fall into that pure negotiation experience that I find is very player dependent as far as the experience you can have. Such that, like the same reason I got rid of Chinatown eventually, it's very, very player dependent. I have had amazing games of Chinatown, and I have had mediocre games of Chinatown, and Vadis kind of falls into the same vein. It is so player dependent that the right group, you can have an absolute blast, and the wrong group, and it's just an okay game. Never a bad game. It's never bad, but it can range from a great game to an okay game, and that's just not a game that I'm going to hold on to and keep around. Then we have Donald Duck and Happy Camper. I did not like this game one bit. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. I'm usually like fairly positive. I'm like this is good, but like not amazing. I didn't like Happy Camper. It wasn't fun. It wasn't good. It's based on the original game. Never played the original game. I don't know. It's designed by Maestro Media, Wolfgang Kramer, and Daryl Andrews. That's like a lot of talent right there. So I don't know what I'm missing out on. But the overall experience felt like I'd rather play Monopoly. And I'm not even saying that sarcastically. I'd rather play Monopoly. I don't know. That's like, Monopoly is a fun game to a certain extent with caveats and, asterisks attached to it. But I like the experience of playing Monopoly. This, I don't know what it was about this game. It felt very basic as far as move around, trade things in, build your little pathway. Like, that's the one compelling element, is there is a pathway you're building of your tents on the board that enable and change the movement dynamic in a way that is rewarding, or can be rewarding, I should say. Ultimately, I didn't enjoy the game experience. I actively did not like this one bit. This is Donald Duck, Happy Camper. Major pass for me. I assume there's a target audience. I didn't like it. I don't know why. I don't know why I bounced off so hard. Again, like, I'm pretty positive on things. I'm like, this is good, this is fun, but not fun enough. Because most games are good. Most games are fun. Most games are going to give an enjoyable experience, at least to myself. Usually the worst thing about most games is that I could have been playing a better game. In the case of Donald Duck Happy Camper, I just don't want to play it. Every other game over here, I would happily play. It's just a question of I'd rather play other stuff. This is the only one so far that I would actively rather not play. Crafting the Cosmos. That is our last one of the games passing through. This is one I was very excited for from Office Dog, and I still like it. In fact, since my review, I've actually played this twice on Board Game Arena, and I assume I will play it again. Now, if you watch my review, part of that will make sense, because part of my criticism over Crafting the Cosmos was that there's literal token fiddliness in the game. There's player piece fiddliness in the game that literally was... it made the game more frustrating. And a game experience that I overall enjoy, I said in my review I would give it a 3.5, but I'm taking off half a point for the fact that the components were a little too fiddly in a way that was frustrating. Now, that means on BGA, it's a straight up 3.5. And again, I don't think it's going to go higher than a 3.5 to me. Again, the BGA experience is a 3.5, in person is a 3. I enjoy crafting the cosmos for what it's doing. There's a fun little puzzle of trying to gather the right bits in order to place things out into the cosmos, in order to optimally score each planet, move things around, and utilize your powers. It's overall a good arc, and overall I would say this is a 3.5 with that asterisk and caveat around that half-point rating adjustment for component fiddliness, because in the actual game, your pieces are constantly falling over as you try to flip different things. It's very cool. It's got a very great table presence, and those pieces are cool, but something about the end result of them took a little bit away from the experience. Again, I've been playing it on BGA. I would happily continue to play it. It's a good game with component issues, but it's not a great game. So a good game with component issues just doesn't have a chance of sticking around. But yeah, it's worth a try. Try it on BGA, see if you like it. I think it's very clever as far as what the game is doing. I was really excited for it and was left with a good game with component issues. Anyway, these are the 8 games that are passing through, which brings us, if you remember, there was one that falls into the where exactly does it fall category, and that is Rococo. Rococo is in shrink. You may have noticed this one, but I have played Rococo. I just had a chance to play it at a convention, and then after that, I was kind of waiting, and I was like, you know what? Let me hold on to it. Let me play it a bit more with the modules. Let me see where it is, and then probably review it and go from there. But then I kind of realized that I don't know if I'm excited enough to do so. It's a good game. I liked Rococo, but it's a big box experience, and I don't know if I want to rake it out, learn the modules, dive into it more. And so about 5 minutes before filming this video, I decided to add this to the games leaving the collection video, even though I think there's more to explore here. You see, Rococo instinctively is either a 3.5 or a 4 to me. Probably a 4, especially with the modules. But it does fall into that more heavyweight Euro experience that I often compare to other games that I'd rather play, and I think I would just choose other games. So rather than going through the push myself through the ringer, like this isn't a review copy. A review copy would change that. If this was a review copy, I'd have to play it more because I got a review copy, I need to cover it. This was my own copy that I got, and I'm intrigued by it, I like it, but I don't feel the need to push myself more, to play it more, given the experience that I had. The basic idea of Rococo is you are designing, designing dresses for balls, for people, whatever not. You're basically trying to gather materials, turn those into dresses, and then either sell those dresses or send off people to the ball for the various degrees of renown that you will earn. There's an interesting puzzle there. There's a little bit of tableau building, getting certain cards that will help you a little hand management. The overarching puzzle of it is pretty satisfying as far as things go, but again, I think base game alone, probably a 3.5 for me. Modules could easily bump that to a 4, like it is already on the cusp, but that's competing in a Euro arena where I have 4.5s and 5s that are holding my attention better than Rococo is. So good game. I am very intrigued to play La Patisserie de Rococo, whatever that kind of shorter version is, because it's a shorter version of a game that I enjoyed, and I'm intrigued enough to see what else they did differently for it. From there, we move to the 4 that are actually in my collection. 3 of them, I'd say, were always in a question mark category, and the 4th one is just the nature of trying to make hard decisions as I constantly keep my collection in as much tightness as I can possibly manage. Trying to keep, again, games are being added all the time, that means games need to leave. To that end, we have Witchstone. This is the easy one. I actually kind of got rid of Witchstone once before, but then we held on to it because the expansion was hoping would change my mind. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It doesn't add enough to the experience to it. I still think Witchstone is fantastic. It feels very Feld-like as far as everything you do earns you points. I don't think it's a Feld game. I think it's a Reina Knizia. It's a Reina Knizia game, which surprised me. It doesn't feel like that. It very much feels like a Feld-like experience. You're trying to just do everything in this game. It is very rewarding overall, but again, I think that I still think of it as a Feld. To me, I think of this as one of Feld's lesser Felds, even though it's not a Feld. But it feels good. It's a good experience. I recommend trying it out, checking out, seeing if you like it. For me, ultimately, it is a good experience, but that's kind of where it taps out. It's a good experience. I like it, but I don't necessarily love it. From there, I can't remember what I rated it. I can't remember if I gave it a 3.5 or a 4. I honestly think a 4 is earned. It is a good experience. Having played it again since getting the expansion, I think it's a good experience. It's a lot of fun. It goes back to that aspect of so many great games. So this has been sitting around for a long time, and I realized that as much as the expansion does add extra elements that I do enjoy, the overall game experience is here when I have those here's in my collection. Next up, we have a tricky one. This is Orion Duel, First Contact over here. I think it says First Contact, but it's basically just Orion Duel with a slipcover. Orion Duel. It's upside down. The slipcover's upside down. Why is the slipcover upside down? That's going to bother me. Let's go ahead and fix that. Anyways, this is a great game. I've actually played this a ton since getting it, both physically as well. That makes more sense. That's why. That makes much more sense. This is a great game. I play this much more both physically as well as on Board Game Arena, and it's a very solid abstract game. The only thing it has against it is that it very much is a one-trick pony as far as what it's doing, which isn't the end of the world, but I do find the game falls into patterns that, having played this, I don't know, 20, 30 times, something like that, which is not a ton, but it's a decent amount. Having played it to a decent amount of times, I feel that I have mostly seen the experience the game has to offer, which is interesting because the abstracts I currently have in my collection, like at a high level, I think I have 5 abstracts. I probably have more, but these are 5 that I can think of offhand. I have Santorini, I have Mythic Mischief. Both of those have a lot of in-game variability from the factions or characters you are utilizing, which makes it a different experience. And then I have Tak, Tsar, and Yinch. Okay, those are the 3 that are kind of pure abstracts, and those 3 pure abstracts are kind of the surviving remnant of so many abstract games I've had over the years that eventually I got rid of once they felt like I was falling into certain patterns. That's because Tak, Yinch, and Tsar, I don't find those patterns to be showing their heads quite as much. They're constantly so enjoyable as far as the game goes. This is one of those that, having played it a lot, and again, I'll still happily play it on Board Game Arena, but having played this a decent amount, I do think this is falling into those kinds of patterns where I feel I've seen the vibes of what you're doing. You're trying to basically win one of 3 ways, either getting a chain of your color from one end to the other, or alternatively connecting 4 galaxies, or alternatively causing your opponent to lose that, connecting them to 3 wormholes. The tricky part is most of your pieces in the game have some of your color and some of your opponent's, and so it's a placement puzzle as far as how you manage to put your both colors on the table at all points while chaining your way towards victory. I still enjoy it, it's still good, but I think it's one that after enough plays has started to fall into those patterns that I'm ready to move on from it. Next up, we have Life of the Amazonia. I did consider getting rid of this during my end-of-year purge last year, and I decided to hold on to it, but it is time for it to go. And to be very clear, this game's biggest enemy is Wondrous Creatures. From the same publishing company, from Bad Comic Games, Wondrous Creatures is just better. Now, they're not exactly the same game, to be very clear, but Life of the Amazonia is an excellent bag-building experience as far as getting the right tokens that will help build your engine, get more animals, place them down into your, your terrain and whatnot to score as well as possible. It is a overall very good experience. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I stand by that rating. It is a good game, a good experience, and I think I would always play Wondrous Creatures over it. They are different. They're not exactly the same, but I do get the very same vibe, the same feeling from playing both. And so, as much as I continue to have this since not getting rid of it last time, I just don't think I'm compelled to play it as much because it's very good, but there are better games, including a game from this company itself, that just kind of begs to be played more. Wondrous Creatures is amazing. You should check it out. Life of the Amazonia is also very solid. You should check it out. But for me, Wondrous Creatures is the better one of the 2. And then lastly, this one is the hardest for me. We have Fall of the Mountain King. Fall of the Mountain King is the next area control game that has slowly been leaving my collection in my slow purge of area control games that has been happening over the past 2 years. If you go back 3-4 years, area control was one of the dominant things I played in my game group. Anything from Cyclades to Kemet to Blood Rage to Rurik to Divide et Impera to Fall of the Mountain King to Wonderland's War and so many more. Lords of Hellas, Lords of Ragnarok. And Lords of Ragnarok is still here, but honestly, I don't know if it will be forever. There are so many excellent area control game experiences that I have had, that I have loved and touted how great they are. I loved area control. I still do. But I do find that area control, like Euros, the best of the best tend to be the ones that survive. And as much as I love Fall of the Mountain King, I think Fall of the Mountain King has some areas that are a bit fiddly and some areas that are oh so satisfying. Getting those trolls is incredibly satisfying. The Goblin Invasion, the whole Goblin track feels a little bit patched on in a way that doesn't totally feel as smooth as I would like. Same problem I have with Burn Cycle, where Burn Cycle is competing with other Chip Theory games, but it has a sideboard that doesn't feel as intertwined, but also does work at the same time. These are hard things to figure out. But ultimately, the combination of me playing less area control over the years, and to be very clear, there are some area control games that are never leaving. And never is never, never. I should be very clear about that too. There's no such thing as never. Never is just more, I don't see a world. I don't see a world in which Blood Rage leaves or Cyclades leave. Kemet, maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. But Cyclades, Blood Rage, Inish, Rurik, DEI, those are safe as safe can be. I'd be shocked if they ever left. but I do play less area control games than I used to, and that does mean that the ones that are very, very good have slowly been leaving my collection one at a time, and today I realized that Fall of the Mountain King is at that point. It's sad because I think this game is excellent. I've had so much fun playing it. Like, this is one of those games that I remember doing crowdfunding. Like, I covered the game, but then I kept playing the prototype I had, which is something that I don't do often. And the handful of games, like, I've done it with Myth of Mischief, which is a million times safe. I've done it with Primal, which is a million times safe. But it definitely is a lower frequency that after playing a prototype, I keep playing the prototype. Usually I'm like, I'll play it when it's final. I'll play when the final game gets here. But in the case of Fall of the Mountain King, my group enjoyed it so much that we did keep playing it. But my group has changed and evolved over the past several years, and area control has gone from being the most played genre in my collection, in my game group, to being one of the lesser played. Still tabled, but lesser so than usual, and that does mean that eventually, well, hard decisions have to be made. I kind of want in the Hall of Mountain King back. That was a good game. Fall of Mountain King is very good. They're both very good. They're both very good in different ways. But I think I play more games like in the Hall of Mountain King now, relative to having previously played more games like Fall of the Mountain King then. Anyways, these are the 13 games leaving the collection. We have 8 passing through, we have 1 medium category as far as where it goes, and then 4 that are definitely leaving the collection. As always, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, I hope you have a good one.